Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the very first EcoRebuild LA mini class. My name is Lucas Ann, and I'm 10th grade at South Pasadena High School, and I'll be your instructor and presenter for today's session. Today, we are starting Series 1, Energy and Clean Power. Our first class is called What is Energy? Renewable versus Non-Renewable Energy. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. First, I'll give a brief introduction to the EcoRebuild LA initiative. Then we'll talk about what energy is and the different types of energy we use in everyday life. After that, we'll look at the global and local context of energy and discuss why our energy choices really matter for the future of our communities and the planet. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. You can type your questions in the Zoom chat and we'll go through them together, talk about them, and share our thoughts. So, EcoRebuild LA is an initiative founded by students who believe climate challenges need real, practical solutions. After seeing the impact of disasters like wildfires in our communities, we felt we needed to do more than just talk about our problems. So, we decided to learn, share what we discover, and most importantly, take action. Our work focuses on sustainable rebuilding, green technology and solutions, and helping communities become stronger and better prepared for the future. Now that you know who we are and why we care about rebuilding sustainably, let's start with the basics. To understand how we can make a real difference, we first need to understand energy. So, what is energy? Energy is basically the ability to do work or cause change. It makes things move, produce heat, create light, and power the systems we use every day. Every time we walk, charge a phone, turn on a light, or drive a car, energy is being converted from one form to another. For example, the chemical energy in food becomes movement in our bodies, and electricity becomes light and heat in our homes. Energy is everywhere, and understanding it is the first step to using it wisely. Now let's talk about why energy matters. Energy isn't just a concept, it's essential for our daily lives, our economy, and the world around us. It powers homes, schools, hospitals, and cities. It keeps businesses and industries running and drives economic growth. At the same time, how we produce and use energy has a big impact on the environment and climate. Burning fossil fuels can pollute the air and contribute to climate change, while cleaner energy choices help protect our planet. So, when we think about energy, we are really thinking about responsibility, how the choices we make today affect the world we live in tomorrow. Energy also shows up in many ways in our daily lives. Electricity powers lights, computers, phones, and appliances. Heating and cooling systems keep our homes and schools comfortable. And transportation, from cars to buses to planes, they all use energy to move people and goods both locally and globally. Seeing energy in action every day helps us understand why it's so important to make smart choices about the type of energy we use. So, where does energy come from? Well, most of the energy we use starts as natural resources, things like sunlight, wind, water, coal, oil, or natural gas. These raw resources are then converted into usable energy that power our homes, devices, transportation, and industries. Some of these resources can be used again and again. We call these renewable energy sources, like solar, wind, and hydro. Others, like coal, oil, and natural gas, are non-renewable. Once they're used up, they're gone, and we can't use them again. Understanding where energy comes from and how it's converted helps us make smarter choices about what kinds of energy to use and how to protect the planet. Now, let's look at the types of energy, focusing on renewable and non-renewable sources. Non-renewable energy comes from sources that nature continuously replenishes, like sunlight, wind, and flowing water. Non-renewable energy, like coal, oil, and natural gas, exists in limited supply and cannot be replaced on a human timescale. Different types of energy have different costs, availability, and environmental impacts. Renewable energy is sustainable over the long term, while non-renewable energy may be cheaper initially, but produces pollution and eventually runs out. Next, let's take a closer look at non-renewable energy, what it is, the types we use, and its advantages versus its disadvantages. So, what is non-renewable energy? Well, non-renewable energy comes from resources that take millions of years to form, like coal, oil, and natural gas. Once we use them, they cannot be replaced on a human timescale. Even though these resources are limited, they currently supply most of the world's electricity, transportation fuel, and industrial power. For example, around 80% of the world's energy today comes from non-renewable sources. They are widely used because they produce a lot of energy and they are reliable. You can generate power on demand and maintain a stable electricity grid. This is why industrialized countries have relied heavily on fossil fuels for over a century. But there's a catch. Using non-renewable energy also comes with long-term consequences for the environment and society. Let's take a closer look at fossil fuels, which are the most common types of non-renewable energy. Coal is mainly used to generate electricity. In many countries, large power plants burn coal to produce steam, which turns turbines. It's cheap and effective, but it produces a lot of carbon dioxide and other pollutants. Oil is mostly used for transportation. Cars, trucks, airplanes, and ships rely on gasoline or diesel made from crude oil. Oil is also used to make plastics, chemicals, and even some medicines. Natural gas is often used for heating, electricity, and industrial processes. Compared to coal and oil, it burns cleaner, but it's still a fossil fuel that releases greenhouse gases. Think about it this way. Fossil fuels are like the backbone of our modern economy, but the way we use them contributes to air pollution, climate change, and environmental damage, which makes it clear why we can't rely on them forever. Another type of non-renewable energy is nuclear power. Nuclear energy comes from uranium, a heavy metal mined from the earth. Through a process called nuclear fission, the nucleus of uranium atoms splits, releasing a huge amount of energy that can generate electricity. Nuclear energy has some big advantages. It produces very low carbon emissions, so it doesn't directly contribute to climate change like burning coal or oil. A single nuclear plant can produce enormous amounts of electricity, enough to power millions of homes. But nuclear energy also has challenges. It produces radioactive waste, which can remain dangerous for thousands of years. Safety is critical because accidents, although rare, can have serious consequences for people and the environment. So while nuclear power is a low carbon alternative to fossil fuels, it's not without risks, and it requires very careful management and advanced technology. Finally, let's summarize the advantages and the disadvantages of non-renewable energy. So some advantages of non-renewable energy are they are reliable. They can produce large amounts of energy on demand. They also have a high energy output, which supports industrial growth, transportation, and modern life. However, burning fossil fuels causes air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and climate change, which affect ecosystems and human health. Non-renewable resources are also limited, which means that they are not sustainable in the long term. As supplies shrink, prices can rise, and societies face energy security challenges. Some sources, like coal and oil, require mining or drilling that can damage landscapes, waterways, and communities. Understanding these pros and cons helps us see why the world is gradually moving toward renewable energy, which we'll cover next. It also highlights an important point for all of us. The energy choices that we make today can affect our environment and society for decades. Now that we've talked about non-renewable energy, let's look at renewable energy, which is becoming increasingly important around the world. Renewable energy comes from sources that nature continuously replenishes: sunlight, wind, water, and even the Earth's internal heat. These sources are considered sustainable because they won't run out on human timescales. Renewable energy also tends to produce very low greenhouse gas emissions, which helps fight climate change and reduces air pollution. It's not just a cleaner option, it's also a long-term solution for powering our homes, schools, industries, and cities without depleting the planet's resources. Firstly, let's take a look at solar energy. The sun produces an enormous amount of energy every day. Solar panels capture sunlight and convert it into electricity using photovoltaic cells. This electricity can power homes, schools, and even entire communities. Solar energy is especially effective in regions with lots of sunlight, like California, but it's also growing in other areas thanks to advances in technology and decreasing costs. A big advantage is that solar power produces no air pollution at all while operating, and panels can last 25 years or more. One challenge, though, is that it depends on sunlight, so energy storage or backup systems are needed at night or on cloudy days. Next is wind energy. Wind turbines capture the kinetic energy of moving air. When the wind blows, it spins the blades of the turbine, which turns a generator to produce electricity. Wind energy is clean because it produces no emissions during operation. It's also renewable. As long as the wind blows, we can generate power. Wind farms are often located in open plains, coastal areas, or offshore locations where winds are strong and consistent. Like solar, wind power can vary depending on weather, so it often works best in combination with energy storage or other power sources. Hydropower is one of the oldest and most reliable renewable energy sources. It generates electricity using flowing or falling water. Dams control water flow to spin turbines, which produce power. Hydropower plants can adjust output quickly to meet demand, making them very flexible for electricity grids. It produces almost no greenhouse gases during operation. But however, large dams can impact river ecosystems and displace communities. So modern hydropower projects carefully balance energy generation with environmental and social considerations. Finally, let's look at geothermal and biomass energy. Geothermal energy taps heat from beneath the Earth's surface to produce electricity or heat buildings directly. It's a stable and reliable source of energy, but it's highly location dependent. Only regions with active geothermal activity can use it effectively. Biomass energy comes from organic materials like plants, wood, or agricultural waste. Biomass can be burned directly for heat, converted into biofuels, or used to generate electricity. Both of these sources have advantages. They are renewable and can help reduce waste, but they also require careful management to avoid environmental damage, such as deforestation or overuse of local resources. Now let's talk about the advantages of renewable energy in more detail. Firstly, renewable energy produces very little or no greenhouse gas emissions while generating power. Unlike burning coal or oil, solar, wind, and hydropower don't release large amounts of carbon dioxide or air pollutants. This helps improve air quality, reduces health problems like asthma, and slows climate change. Secondly, renewable energy is sustainable. Sunlight, wind, rivers, and the Earth's heat are naturally replenished. This means we can rely on them for decades and centuries without running out, unlike fossil fuels. Sustainability also helps countries improve energy security, reducing reliance on imported oil or gas. Third, using renewables helps reduce fossil fuel consumption. This has multiple benefits. It lowers carbon emissions, decreases environmental impacts from mining and drilling, and reduces risks from volatile fossil fuel prices. Renewable energy also drives economic growth. Installing solar panels, building wind farms, and maintaining infrastructure and developing energy storage technologies all create jobs and stimulate local economies. Finally, many renewable systems can be decentralized, giving communities control over their own power supply. For example, a school or neighborhood can install solar panels on site, reducing dependency on long transmission lines and lowering energy losses. In short, renewable energy isn't just cleaner, it's safer, sustainable, and economically smart. Of course, it does have its challenges. One major issue is that it is often weather dependent. Solar panels produce less electricity on cloudy days or at night, and wind turbines need sufficient wind to operate. Hydropower can be affected by droughts as well. This variability means we need ways to balance supply and demand. That brings us to energy storage. Batteries, pumped hydro, and other storage systems are necessary to store electricity when it's sunny or windy and release it when demand is high. Advances in storage technology are making this way more practical and cost effective, but it's still a key part of building a reliable renewable energy system. Another challenge is the upfront cost. Building solar farms, wind turbines, or hydropower plants require significant initial investment. However, over time, costs are decreasing rapidly due to technological improvements, mass production, and government incentives. Once installed, these systems often have low operational costs and long lifespans, making them economically competitive in the long run. Finally, renewable energy deployment can face geographical and environmental constraints. Not every region has strong winds, consistent sunlight, or flowing rivers. Infrastructure must also be designed carefully to minimize impacts on wildlife and local ecosystems. In short, while renewable energy is powerful and sustainable, we need smart planning, technology, and investment to overcome these challenges and fully benefit from it. Energy use is very different around the world. Some countries, like the United States or Germany, consume large amounts of energy per person because of industry, transportation, and high living standards. Other countries, especially developing nations, may use much less energy per person, often because of limited resources or lower access to technology. Geography plays a role as well. Countries with a lot of sunlight, wind, or rivers can generate more renewable energy, while others rely more on coal, oil, or gas. Economic development is also key. Industrialized nations need more energy for factories, transport, and cities, whereas rural or less developed regions may rely mainly on small scale energy sources. Policies matter as well. Governments that invest in renewable energy, energy efficiency, or smart grids can significantly change how energy is produced and used. Now, let's take a look at some examples from all around the world. Sunny regions like California, Spain, or India are increasingly using solar power because sunlight is abundant and technology is cost effective. Wind power is possible in coastal areas and flat plains like Denmark or Texas, where consistent winds allow turbines to produce electricity efficiently. Many industrialized nations still rely heavily on fossil fuels for electricity and transport. Although this is gradually changing with policy incentives for renewables, every region's energy mix still reflects a combination of natural resources, economic development, technology availability, and government policy. Now, let's bring energy a lot closer to home, here in South Pasadena and the surrounding Los Angeles area. Most of our electricity comes from the regional power grid managed by the LADWP, or the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which supplies a mix of natural gas, hydropower, and increasing amounts of renewable energy like solar and wind. South Pasadena and Pasadena have seen a big rise in rooftop solar panels on homes, schools, and local businesses. There are also community solar programs where neighborhoods share solar power generated from larger installations. Our sunny Southern California climate makes solar particularly effective. Local energy efficiency programs are also helping. Many schools and city buildings have upgraded to LED lighting, smart thermostats, and efficient HVAC systems, like the middle school I went to, South Pasadena Middle School. Residents can also participate in rebate programs for energy efficient appliances, and some neighborhoods encourage electric vehicle adoption to reduce gasoline use. Every local decision matters. If more homes, schools, and businesses adopt solar panels or energy saving measures, South Pasadena can reduce reliance on fossil fuels, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and improve local air quality, all while saving money on electricity bills. This shows that energy isn't just a global or a national issue. It's something we experience every day in our own community, and our actions right here in South Pasadena make a real difference for the environment and the future. So as we wrap up, let's think about why our energy choices matter. Energy powers our homes, schools, hospitals, and transportation, but how we get and use energy affects the environment, our health, and even the economy. Using renewable energy reduces pollution and greenhouse gases, which means cleaner air and healthier communities. Small actions like solar panels, energy efficient appliances, or electric vehicles add up and they make a real difference, even in small towns like South Pasadena. To sum up, the key takeaways are: energy is essential for modern life, renewable energy is cleaner and more sustainable, and understanding energy helps us make smarter choices for the future. In short, the decisions we make today shape the world we'll live in tomorrow, and we all have a role to play. Anyways, that's it for today's session. Now we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, just type them in the Zoom chat and we'll discuss them together.